Warning: every story hides a chilling twist that will leave you questioning reality. Whether fact or fiction, secrets unravel, mysteries deepen, and nothing is as it seems. Stay until the very last second to uncover the truth.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Shadows in the fields. The story begins with a bird's eye view of the quiet town of Ravenwood in the summer of 1988, nestled in the heart of the Midwest. It's the kind of place where the American dream still lingers. White picket fences, sprawling cornfields, and neighbors who leave their doors unlocked at night. But for all its charm, Ravenwood holds its secrets that would soon plunge it into infamy. The morning of June 12th began like any other. The sun rose over fields shimmering with dew, and the town square bustled with the sounds of children laughing, shopkeepers chatting, and the rhythmic tolling of the church bell. Sheriff Ethan Hale, a man nearing retirement, sipped his coffee at the diner as locals discussed the upcoming town festival. It was a day to celebrate the town's history, a tradition dating back nearly a century. But even as the festivities unfolded, whispers of unease began to surface. An unusual chill lingered in the air that night, despite the warm season. Some residents reported faint humming sounds, like an old tune carried on the wind. No one could pinpoint its source, but it seemed to emanate from the dense woods that bordered the town. The festival ended with fireworks lighting up the night sky, and the townspeople returned to their homes, unaware that, for many, it would be the last night they were ever seen. The next morning, Sheriff Hell was awakened by a frantic phone call. It was Grace Myers, the schoolteacher, who lived alone on the edge of town. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Something's wrong. My neighbors. They're gone. Their doors are open, but no one's answering. The whole street feels empty." Hall dismissed it as an overreaction, but decided to check in. As he drove through the town, his unease grew. Block after block, houses sat eerily silent. The usual morning routines, children playing in yards, sprinklers watering lawns, were absent. By the time he reached Grace's house, Hall realized the gravity of the situation. Entire neighborhoods were abandoned. It wasn't just a few missing families. It was hundreds of people. Inside the homes, everything was as it should be. Cars were parked in driveways. Breakfasts sat uneaten on tables. And televisions hummed static in living rooms. Pets roamed the streets, barking and whining as if searching for their owners. The eerie hum from the previous night seemed louder now, almost palpable, as if it were pressing against the edges of the town. By noon, Hale had assembled the remaining townsfolk in the church hall. The mood was one of disbelief and growing fear. Among the crowd were Thomas Drexler, the town's amateur historian, and Father David Carter, a man known for his quiet wisdom. They discussed theories, a gas leak, a mass exodus, even the possibility of government involvement. But no answers emerged. The only thing they agreed on was the need for caution. As night fell, the remaining residents locked their doors and windows, but sleep did not come easily. Some claim to hear faint footsteps on their porches or see shadowy figures moving in the fields. The hum, now unmistakably a low, haunting melody, grew louder with each passing hour. Sheriff Hale spent the night at his office, combing through old records for anything that might explain the sudden disappearances. That's when he stumbled upon something chilling. A handwritten journal entry from 1910. It described an eerily similar event in Ravenwood's early days, when a family of 7 vanished without a trace. The entry ended with a cryptic warning: "Beware the song of the woods." It calls those who listen. The first episode ends with Hale sitting in his dimly lit office, staring at the journal's final words. The camera pans out to show the dark woods surrounding the town, and the hum swells, leaving viewers with an unsettling sense of dread. The search for answers. The second episode picks up with Sheriff Ethan Hale, sitting alone in his dimly lit office, poring over the journal entry he discovered. The cryptic warning, "Beware the song of the woods," echoes in his mind as he recalls the faint, haunting hum that seemed to grow louder throughout the day. Determined to find answers, he begins organizing a systematic search of the town and surrounding areas. The search begins. The remaining townsfolk, though fearful, agreed to form search parties. Groups comb through the empty homes and neighborhoods, documenting what they find. The eerie precision of the disappearances becomes apparent. Meanwhile, Thomas Drexler, the historian, begins digging into the town's archives. He discovers patterns of unexplained disappearances throughout Ravenwood's history, dating back to its founding in the 1800s. The disappearances are rare, but disturbingly similar. Large groups vanishing overnight, leaving no trace behind. The woods and the song. As the search parties spread out, some residents ventured toward the dense woods on the outskirts of town. These woods, known locally as Black Hollow, have long been the subject of whispered tales and warnings. Hunters and hikers often spoke of strange sensations, an unshakable feeling of being watched, or a sudden, overwhelming urge to turn back. One search party, led by Hale, enters the woods cautiously. The deeper they go, the louder the humming becomes. It's no longer just a sound, but a vibration that seems to resonate in their chests. The group stumbles upon an ancient, moss-covered stone circle hidden among the trees. At the center lies an altar-like structure, etched with strange, indecipherable symbols. Before they can investigate further, one of the group members, a young deputy named Paul, begins behaving erratically. He insists he hears voices calling his name and runs deeper into the forest, ignoring the others' pleas to stop. His cries for help are soon drowned out by the rising hum, and he vanishes into the shadows. The group retreats in fear, unable to find him. Thomas Drexler's breakthrough. Thomas Drexler uncovers an unsettling connection between the disappearances and Ravenwood's founding. In the late 1800s, the town's founder, Elias Grayson, wrote in his private letters about making a pact to ensure the town's prosperity. These letters mention the keeper of the woods, an entity said to dwell in Black Hollow. Grayson describes the keeper as a benevolent protector, but warns that its favor must be maintained through rituals and offerings. One letter stands out, dated 1876. It reads, "The keeper grows restless. The song calls to me in my dreams. We must give what is owed, or all shall be taken." Drexler theorizes that the disappearances are connected to this so-called pact. The keeper, whatever it may be, appears to demand a tribute, a price for Ravenwood's prosperity. But what that price entails remains unclear, a shocking revelation. As the episode nears its conclusion, Sheriff Hale receives an anonymous tip. A letter is left on his desk, written in shaky handwriting. They're not gone. They're waiting in the woods. Beware the midnight hour. Against his better judgment, Hale decides to return to Black Hollow that night with Drexler and Grace Myers. As the clock strikes midnight, the trio reaches the stone circle. The hum is deafening now, and the air feels charged with electricity. Suddenly, the symbols on the altar begin to glow, and a figure emerges from the shadows, a tall, faceless silhouette that seems to ripple like smoke. The episode ends with the trio frozen in terror as the screen fades to black, leaving viewers desperate to know what happens next. The Keeper's Warning. The third episode begins with a flashback to the eerie scene at the heart of Black Hollow. Sheriff Hale, Thomas Drexler, and Grace Myers stand frozen as a faceless silhouette looms before them. The hum reverberates through the trees, louder than ever, filling the air with an almost unbearable tension. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the sound stops. Silence falls over the woods, broken only by the crackling of leaves underfoot as the figure steps closer. A brush with the unknown. The figure doesn't speak, but its presence is overwhelming. It seems to exude an unnatural energy that makes the trio's skin crawl. Grace, clutching a flashlight, notices something on the altar, a small, glowing stone with symbols etched into its surface. The symbols are similar to those Drexler had found in the town's archives, marks associated with the mysterious pact Elias Grayson wrote about. Suddenly, the figure raises an arm and points toward the town. The hum resumes, now distorted and layered with what sounds like whispers in an ancient, incomprehensible language. The trio takes this as their cue to flee, running through the forest until they burst out onto the main road. Gasping for air, behind them, the woods fall silent once more. The town spirals into chaos. Returning to Ravenwood, the group struggles to make sense of what they've experienced. Drexler insists the stone is a key to understanding the disappearances, while Hale is determined to keep the events under wraps to avoid further panic. Grace, however, is deeply shaken. She begins to have vivid nightmares of the faceless figure, standing in her home, watching her silently. Drexler's research unveils more horrors. Drexler focuses on deciphering the symbols on the glowing stone, which seem to match those found in old carvings hidden in the town's church basement. With Grace's reluctant help, he pieces together a chilling story, a disturbing discovery. Hale investigates the areas surrounding Black Hollow, hoping to find any trace of Deputy Paul. who vanished in episode 2. Instead, he discovers something far more disturbing: an abandoned house deep in the woods. The structure is ancient, predating Ravenwood itself, and appears to have been used as a shrine. Inside, Hal finds walls covered in more of the mysterious symbols, as well as crude drawings of the faceless figure. In one corner lies a pile of rusted tools and torn clothing, suggesting that others have been here and didn't leave. On a table in the center of the room is a notebook filled with cryptic entries. The writing appears to belong to someone who lived in the house decades ago. One entry reads, "The song grows louder each night. It calls to me, beckoning. I dare not sleep for fear of where it might take me." As Hale flips through the pages, he hears the faint hum again, this time coming from inside the house. The episode ends with him slowly turning to face the darkness of the doorway behind him. The Keeper's Realm. The fourth episode dives deeper into the supernatural and psychological horrors surrounding Ravenwood, blending the lines between reality and myth as Sheriff Hale Drexler and Grace Myers confront the terrifying implications of the Keeper's influence. The Notebook's warning. The episode begins with Sheriff Hale staring into the dark doorway of the abandoned house in the woods. The hum grows louder, vibrating through the walls. Hale shines his flashlight into the doorway and discovers Deputy Paul sitting on the floor, mumbling incoherently. His eyes are wide and unfocused, and his voice is barely audible. The song, "It Won't Stop. It's coming for all of us." Hale drags Paul out of the house and radios for help. As they return to town, Paul begins to scream, clawing at his ears as if trying to silence the hum. By the time they arrive at the station, Paul has slipped into a catatonic state, muttering only one phrase: "Midnight. The veil will lift." Midnight strikes again. Meanwhile, Drexler and Grace examine the symbols from the glowing stone. Comparing them to the entries in Grayson's journal, they theorize that the Keeper exists in a different plane of reality. Liminal space between the physical world and something much darker. Grace recalls the faceless figure pointing toward the town and begins to suspect that the Keeper's reach extends beyond Black Hollow. As midnight approaches, a strange fog rolls into Ravenwood, blanketing the streets. Residents who haven't already fled barricade themselves indoors. The hum becomes deafening, and the fog seems to take on a life of its own, creeping under doors and through cracks in windows. Several residents report seeing shadowy figures moving in the mist, their outlines vaguely human but distorted, as if viewed through warped glass. One survivor describes hearing voices whispering their name, coaxing them to step outside. The Keeper's mark. Grace begins to notice something horrifying. Several people, including herself, bear strange marks on their skin thin, glowing lines that appear to form patterns. Drexler identifies these as sigils associated with summoning rituals. The marks seem to appear on those who have come into close contact with the Keeper's influence, suggesting that they may be marked as its next targets. Hall calls an emergency meeting at the church, but the gathering is interrupted when the fog infiltrates the building. The shadowy figures enter with it, their presence causing lights to flicker and glass to shatter. The remaining townsfolk flee, but several are caught in the chaos and vanish. Their screams cut off abruptly. A path to the other side, determined to save the remaining townspeople and uncover the truth. Sheriff Hall, Drexler, and Grace decide to use the glowing stone to access the Keeper's realm. However, they need more information before proceeding. Grace remembers the abandoned house where they found Deputy Paul and suggests returning to search for additional clues. At the house, they uncover an old, rotting chest hidden beneath the floorboards. Inside, they find a collection of relics, including a cracked mirror with runes etched around its edges and a map of the woods, marked with strange symbols. Drexler believes the map shows locations tied to the Keeper's rituals, and the mirror may serve as a gateway to the other side, crossing the veil. As midnight approaches, the trio prepares for the journey. The remaining townsfolk gather in the church, fearful but hopeful that Hell and the others might succeed. Paul, still catatonic, begins muttering in a language none of them recognize as the hum returns, now more oppressive than ever. Using the glowing stone and the mirror, Hell, Drexler, and Grace perform an impromptu ritual at the stone circle in Black Hollow. The air grows heavy, and the hum transforms into a chorus of distorted voices. The mirror begins to shimmer, and the world around them dissolves into darkness. When they open their eyes, they find themselves in a twisted version of Ravenwood, a nightmarish landscape where the streets are shrouded in perpetual fog, and the buildings seem to decay and rebuild themselves in an endless loop. The Keeper's realm is a place of endless whispers, shifting shadows, and unnatural cold. The Keeper's realm. As they navigate the Keeper's realm, the group encounters echoes of the missing townsfolk. These ghostly apparitions wander aimlessly, their faces blank and their movements jerky, as if puppets on invisible strings. Grace tries to speak to one of them, but it dissolves into smoke at her touch. The trio begins to see visions of the past, revealing the horrifying truth about Ravenwood's founding. They witness Elias Grayson conducting a ritual at the stone circle, surrounded by robed figures. The Keeper appears faceless and towering, and strikes a deal. It will bless the town with prosperity in exchange for regular sacrifices. Over time, the sacrifices escalate from livestock to humans, with the town elders choosing who will be taken. A terrible bargain. The group finally confronts the Keeper at the heart of its realm, a massive, shifting entity that seems to be made of darkness and sound. It speaks without words, its voice a deafening hum that resonates directly in their minds. The Keeper reveals its ultimate goal. Ravenwood's continued existence is an anomaly, and the town must now fully join its realm to restore balance. Hall tries to reason with it, offering the glowing stone as a symbol of surrender. But the Keeper demands more. It points to Grace, who realizes with horror that she has been marked as the final sacrifice needed to seal the pact and save the remaining townsfolk. The final stand. The 5th episode plunges deeper into the heart of the Keeper's realm. As Sheriff Hale Grace and Drexler fight to save themselves and the town of Ravenwood. This chapter is marked by sacrifices, shocking revelations, and a desperate attempt to sever the town's cursed connection to the Keeper. The Keeper's ultimatum. The air is thick with fog, and the hum has grown into an overwhelming cacophony of voices, each one pleading, crying, or warning. The Keeper's faceless figure towers over them, radiating power and menace, unraveling the Keeper's power. Drexler, relying on the knowledge he has pieced together, believes the pact can only be broken by destroying the anchor that ties Ravenwood to the Keeper. He deduces that this anchor is hidden somewhere within the Keeper's realm, tied to the glowing stone they discovered earlier. As they search, the group encounters increasingly bizarre and terrifying manifestations. Despite the obstacles, they press on, driven by a shared determination to save Ravenwood. The anchor's location. The trio eventually arrives at the heart of the Keeper's realm, a massive, pulsating structure resembling a tree made of blackened, twisting roots. At its base lies a glowing orb embedded in an altar, radiating the same eerie light as the stone from Black Hollow. Drexler identifies this as the anchor binding the Keeper to Ravenwood. As Hale approaches the altar, the Keeper appears once more, this time unleashing its full wrath. It summons a storm of shadows and sound, forcing the group to confront their deepest fears. Holly sees visions of the townsfolk blaming him for the disappearances. Grace sees herself being consumed by the fog, her screams echoing endlessly. Drexler is haunted by the ghost of Elias Grayson, accusing him of meddling in forces he cannot comprehend. The final sacrifice. Realizing that the anchor can only be destroyed by a life willingly given, Grace steps forward. She insists that she must be the one to sacrifice herself, as the Keeper has marked her for this purpose. Hale and Drexler plead with her, but she remains resolute, believing that her death is the only way to save the town. At the last moment, Halle makes a daring decision. He seizes the glowing orb and smashes it against the altar. The Keeper lets out a deafening, inhuman roar as its realm begins to collapse. The trio is engulfed in blinding lights as the scene fades to white. Back in Ravenwood, the group awakens in the stone circle in Black Hollow. The glowing stone has turned to ash, and the hum is gone. They return to town to find the fog lifted and the remaining residents safe. However, the cost is heavy. A new dawn. Sheriff Hale becomes a symbol of hope, while Drexler begins documenting the town's story to ensure the horrors of the Keeper are never forgotten. In a chilling twist, the last shot reveals a faint humming sound in the woods, leaving viewers questioning whether the Keeper is truly gone or simply waiting.
Warning. Every story hides a chilling twist that will leave you questioning reality. Whether fact or fiction, secrets unravel, mysteries deepen, and nothing is as it seems. Stay until the very last second to uncover the truth.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.